The Women's College acknowledges the traditional owners of the land on which we are recording this podcast, the Turrbal and Jagera people of the Meanjin region. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and recognise that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are Australia's first storytellers, communities and creators of culture. We recognise their continuing connection to the land and the waters. Welcome to Voices of Influence, a podcast brought to you by the Women's College within the University of Queensland. I'm your host and producer, Tess Feller. Our episodes are designed to ignite inspiration and empower young adults. Tune in for engaging discussions with diverse professionals who share actionable insights to navigate early adulthood.
This episode is general in nature. We're going to talk about lots of different tools and ideas to help with endometriosis and other related conditions, but please do take this back with your health professional or GP to just discuss what is best for you.
Welcome to our third episode. Today we're honoured to have Jessica Taylor, CEO of QENDO, a leading organisation dedicated to supporting individuals with endometriosis and related gynecological conditions. With a strong commitment to advocacy, Jess has been instrumental in securing significant funding for the Australian Government for endometriosis and pelvic pain clinics nationwide. She's also played a significant role in multidisciplinary initiatives such as the National Action Plan and the QENDO app. Join us as we delve into Jessica's personal journey, her advocacy work with QENDO, and the importance of raising awareness and advocating for women's health issues. Welcome, Jess.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. We're very excited to have you here. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you for a recommendation for our listeners. Is there something you've been listening, reading, watching that you think our listeners could benefit from?
So I would recommend a book that has been recently launched called Healing Pelvic Pain by Dr. Peter Wright. It really talks to the whole body approach to managing endometriosis and pelvic pain, and also our bodies at large. It gives you so much fundamental information, and I think it's a really good resource.
I actually got gifted it from my pelvic floor physio. She sent it to me in the mail, and I really like it because it's a holistic view on everything. So it's not just about the medication. It's not just about even the pelvic physio. It's about the whole body approach and everything, like you said. So yes, I second that recommendation. And I'd just like to ask you a little bit about yourself. Why are you in the women's health field and what makes you so passionate to create change for women's health issues?
Well, I think if it goes back to when I first started puberty and I got my first period, and I remember it so vividly where I had no idea what I was about to get into. I didn't know or receive much education or information about it. And my mum was also struggling herself. So she went on to be diagnosed with endometriosis, but back then she had no idea what it was. And so for years and years, I thought that something was wrong with me. I thought that what I was going through was not normal, and then I didn't speak about it. So I went off to university and became really, really unwell. I couldn't finish my degree, my first degree. And there was a constant feeling of guilt and feeling, why can't I just do what all my friends or my colleagues are doing? And when I was finally diagnosed with endometriosis myself, I remember laying in that bed thinking, wow, I've just spent years and years and years going through this path of no answers and finally received some information. Surely I'm not the only one. And I remember researching and Googling around what was out there, and this was 10 years ago, so Facebook groups weren't really that promoted or couldn't really find them. And I called the QENDO helpline and I spoke with one of the founding members, and she had been in this space since the 80s.
Wow.
And to finally hear that, okay, this is not something that just I'm going through, and in fact it's something that has been around since the 80s, which seems really old. I thought, okay, that just gave me so much validation and so much hope, and then gave me the connection and the community that I never had. And also the friends who, just completely got me at a time when my other friends who, we didn't talk about periods, we didn't talk about pelvic pain or any of those symptoms. But to be thrown into this community where it was so openly spoken about and so accepted, and also an understanding of, okay, yep, you have to cancel today, that's no problem. it was just so empowering. But through that work, I heard of the stories of people who had it far worse off than me. And I had it pretty bad and they had it even worse. And I thought, oh my gosh, we are in Queensland, we're in Australia. How are we still failing women like this? So that really energized me, and it continues to energize me. And I always think about, if I can just help one person, that completely changes their trajectory of their whole life, then I've done my job, and that's really what keeps me going.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, you know, as someone who has endometriosis herself, it makes all the difference that there are people out there who are continually advocating and, you know, again, just acknowledging and validating that it's, you know, something that everyone could experience. Yeah.
Queensland, there is the highest prevalence here.
Wow.
So we see a 1 in 6 Queenslanders will live with endometriosis, in comparison to nationwide, either 1 in 7 or 1 in 9.
Wow.
So we have a lot to do here in Queensland, and I think that we're just getting started, but we just have to work out why our numbers are so high here.
Interesting. Yeah, there'd be a lot of research to do.
There's so much research to do. Just before I come onto this podcast, I was over with the team at the Institute for Molecular Bioscience, because endometriosis, it's a tissue that's similar to the lining of the uterus, and it can travel in other parts of the body and all throughout, but we actually don't know what the lesions in the body are yet. We don't understand the disease itself. And so why we love the team at IMB is because they're trying to work out, okay, what is this disease? What are all the different types of this disease? And then we can work out targeted treatments or a targeted diagnosis method to find out, okay, this is what it would be. This is the kind of medication that would work for you and maybe not work for you, and be really targeted, because endo is so complex, but it's also really expensive to manage these conditions. I'm sure anyone listening would understand that, including both of us here.
Yeah.
So we can, rather than throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, find out what wall and what spaghetti and marry them up and really be targeted with what we're doing.
Yeah, and I suppose that is the future of research for endometriosis, because even down to the individual symptom is so different for every single individual who has endometriosis. And I think it doesn't matter whether you have stage 1 or you have stage 4, the difference in symptoms can mean the difference in treatment. And then, you know, I couldn't ask you what treatment worked for you, because it probably wouldn't work for me. So that's actually really inspiring to hear that people are doing the work to, get the individualized treatment.
And we're doing it in Brisbane.
Yeah, wow.
On the UQ campus.
Where we are sitting now. Yeah.
There's some incredible people working in this space that are so local here. And I think that's something to celebrate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think that your story is very inspiring, and your passion can transcend. Even saying that statistic, 1 in 6 in Queensland, that is for endometriosis. Could you go into a little bit for listeners who may not know what endometriosis is, PCOS, adenomyosis? Outline it a little bit.
So endometriosis is where tissue that's similar to the lining of the uterus can be found in other parts of the body, and it has now been found in every single organ in the body. So it can travel very much like cancer cells can travel. It's not a sexually transmitted disease. It is genetic. There is a significant genetic component, and then the other component is also environmental. So the environment that we grow up, our nervous system. But the symptoms are really significant. You know, it can start with period pain or pelvic pain around the time of a period or around the time of ovulation, but then it can be every single day, and it can impact your bowel motions, your bladder, the brain fog, headaches and migraines around the time of ovulation or a period. And so it's this whole body disease. It's not just in your pelvis. It can affect you completely. You know, I know some people listening will agree with me with that sciatic nerve pain that can just shoot down your legs, and it can really impact your ability to study and ability to work. And so this is where it is a whole body disease, and this is where we need to see this holistically, not just within our pelvis. Adenomyosis is a condition where it's very much confined to the uterus. Yeah, so you'll find adenomyosis in the uterus. And often with endometriosis and adenomyosis, people will have both conditions. Yeah. And so where by definition endometriosis is found outside the uterus, adeno is within it. Yeah. And so little fibroids, like little chocolate cysts, can grow up in the uterus, and it can be really difficult. TMI warning, but it could be very much heavy bleeding. There's a lot of blood clots that can often occur, and it can be really painful. Some people feel these really intense shooting stabs. I kind of describe it a bit like fruit ninja.
Oh, that is not nice.
It is not nice at all. And so the pelvis is spasming. The pelvis is really upset. And then you have PCOS, which with PCOS, often people will label it like an umbrella condition, but there's actually 4 different types of PCOS, and they all mean really different things. But there's a real concern around within the body of an imbalance of insulin and all these other hormones, which can present with acne or facial hair, or like a pear-shaped type body, or the belly might balloon out. So PCOS is a difficult one because there's all these different subtypes of the disease, and seeing someone who will really look at you again like a whole and really trying to find a holistic gynecologist is probably the best way to go.
And would you say that typically the way to diagnose this is through a laparoscopy surgery, or are we moving away from surgical diagnosis?
For endometriosis, there's 2 schools of thought now. So for the last 7 years, the gold standard has been excision surgery. So like you say, you go in and you have laparoscopic surgery. So you're under general anaesthetic, which is significant to go under general anaesthetic.
They say it's minor surgery, but it's a major surgery.
Yeah. It's massive.
Yeah.
Not only physically, but also emotionally, it's massive as well. And so they blow up the belly. So you put to sleep, you have a catheter in which they, manages your bladder while you're asleep. And they blow up the belly and they put a couple of excisions around, and they go in there with tools. So one would be a camera, another would be some type of device to remove lesions of endometriosis if they find any. And they're looking around to see, okay, is the bladder impacted? Is the bowel impacted? Can everything move? Or often they'll be looking for any adhesions. So if you think about the lesions are like roots, like weeds in a garden, and you'll often have the weed with roots underneath the soil, and then on top there's like a weed, above the soil. So they're looking around for any of those lesions, and they're trying to remove the entire thing. So they're trying to remove the weed and the root to hopefully avoid recurrence, recurrent disease. And so they're also looking around for the adhesions, like I mentioned, which is very much like spider webs. So imagine the pelvis just wrapped around in spider webs and nothing can move.
Yeah.
And I often describe the pelvis and the fallopian tubes like, those car sales, they have those floating balloon men.
Yes, that wave in the wind. Yes.
That's what our fallopian tubes and our uterus wants to do. It wants to frolic in the wind. It wants to frolic in the wild.
Yeah.
And when it's not happy because of the adhesions and the endometriosis lesions, it gets really, really upset, and it completely restricts and deflates. And that's when we get pelvic pain, and all of our pain pathways are triggered. Or other symptoms. So they're looking at in the surgery to see what's restricted, what isn't, and then trying to remove as much as they can. So then you're sewn up and you have some stitches, and you can take a couple of weeks to recover. And so what we found in March, the paper was released that only 40% of patients that had this surgery actually had some symptomatic relief. So my question to everyone is, then what do we do with these other 60% of patients that go in to have surgery and their symptoms are not relieved at all? That's where we're failing women, in my opinion, or people assigned female at birth. And that's where we need this entire wraparound service, this entire multidisciplinary team to look at that whole person, not just the lesion, because people cannot be defined by their lesion. They're still a whole person.
And also with that, not defined by the degree of endometriosis, adenomyosis, even if nothing is found as well, I think that that's, something really validating I want pay maybe listeners to know is that whether you have stage 1 or stage 4, that doesn't mean that your symptoms are less severe than somebody else.
No, you're absolutely right, Tess. And the amount of symptoms someone is living with, like we say, does not equal the amount of disease.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would encourage people to separate the two out, because the symptom management we can start to do something about whilst we're waiting for some management of the lesions for surgery, or as well as. Yeah, it always has to be as well as. And everyone's so different, because people who have stage 4 endometriosis, which really means the amount of organs that are impacted. So stage 1 is a couple of these lesions throughout the pelvis, and they might be in the most enormous amount of pain. They might have the most enormous symptoms at a stage 1. Whereas we hear from people with stage 4 endometriosis where their bladder is stuck to their bowel and their fallopian tubes are all completely wound up in this spider web of adhesions, but have no symptoms at all.
So interesting.
It's so complex.
It's so complex.
So people really, I would encourage to not be defined by that.
Yeah.
And then we can really start to look at, okay, what things do you enjoy doing and how do we get you back to do those?
Yeah, absolutely. And also I really like that statistic that you said that only 40%, I didn't know that, only 40% of people are have relief from surgery, because I was one of those people. I got worse after surgery, and everyone kind of said to me, like my friends and people around me who weren't very educated, they said, oh, why do you still have pain? The surgery was supposed to fix that. And I was just like, I still am like, yes, I know. I thought so too. But yeah, that makes sense, 40%.
So, and there is no cure. Surgery will not cure this. So there is an absolute misconception from the wider public or wider community that, we've heard go and have a baby or go and have surgery and you should be fixed by now. But this is this is embedded in our DNA. It's lifelong. And while surgery is a tool, there's so many other things we can do. And for some people who have that really severe disease or where there's concern it's on the bowel or the bladder, then absolutely we should be going in and having a look to make sure everything's okay. But then what's the plan for that person after? And really building that team around them, I think, is super important. Whereas with adenomyosis, you can cure adenomyosis. It's not a great option, but it's a hysterectomy. So because adenomyosis is within the uterus, if we remove the uterus, then that can often help. Whereas, like I said earlier, by definition, endometriosis is outside the uterus. So removing the uterus, yes, okay, it will stop the bleeding, but it won't cure the disease because it's outside of that area.
And so you said there was a second school of thought apart from the surgery and the laparoscopy, and is that leaning towards the holistic care?
What we're seeing more so is we have a real advancement in technology. So 7 years ago when we all started to say have surgery because we can find the disease, and everyone went and did that, and so we have excellent data because we didn't have that back then, yeah? But in that 7-year period, we have now seen so much more advancements in our ultrasound, and people can actually, for some very trained ultrasound technicians, they can actually start to detect if there is endometriosis in the pelvis or in other areas.
Wow.
And so this isn't everyone. You cannot go down the road to the local ultrasound place and have this done. A really specialised trained sonographer with really good technology can start to look at, okay, is the bowel and the bladder connected or are they freely moving? Can we see any lesions or can we see any chocolate cysts? They can start to map it out. And all of this information can then go back to the gynecologist and they can build out this clinical history or clinical picture of you to look at your history, your symptoms, what's happening on the imaging, if the imaging's done really well. And then they can start to go, okay, well, you probably do have endometriosis. Do you want surgery? If the answer is no, or if there's no really good reason to have that, we can get you started on all of the treatment options and all the management options whilst you're either deciding to have surgery or prefer not to or still want to. So the new school of thought is certainly coming around to the fact that we may be able to diagnose endometriosis sooner, whether it be through ultrasound or whether it be some type of tissue sample taken. The blood test, which came up around social media a couple of years ago, is really highly debated because again, our team here at UQ, they took that same data to determine if a blood test for endometriosis could be taken and really relied upon. And Australia found it to be not that great in reliability. So we didn't go ahead with that. But other overseas people are still looking there. I think there are lots of different diagnosis options coming. And I think that's really exciting because if we don't have to go through surgery just to get the answer that we need to start the treatment that we need, that will really remove that barrier for people, and they can start to get help sooner. So I think many years ago, and if anyone has parents or mums or siblings with endometriosis, you'll often hear of them struggling for years and decades. And what we're seeing now is because of all the people who have spoken about their condition, who have shared their story, we're seeing advancement in research and clinical care and everything. And so if people have symptoms of endometriosis, the trajectory of people now isn't going to be what it was like our parents, because you can get help sooner. And absolutely surgery is one component of that, and working with the gynecologist to work out if that's best for you, and also if that's something you want to do. Like, some people really feel like that's an important piece of their journey. I really don't like the word journey. It's like, thinking you're going to go on a piano cruise. So not that.
It's not that.
No.
That would be fun.
But I think these days women and people have more agency to determine, do I want to have surgery? If not, I've got all these other options. But if I do, then I can go down that path as well. And I think it's about, and what we're really passionate about, is giving people all of the options, all of the informed decisions, so we don't have individuals just waiting for no real reason. They can actually start to take action.
Yeah. And then I guess maybe people who are listening to this might be thinking, oh, okay, some of these symptoms that we mentioned before are ringing true to me, but how do I know that this is something I need to progress? And how do I know when to advocate for myself and when it's not normal? Because, as women and girls and, females, we get told a lot, period pain is normal, heavy bleeding is normal, and it's not. Myself, I had started my period when I was 10 years old, I was just a baby. And for years and years, I got told, no, it's normal how many tampons and pads you're going through. It's normal to have this pain and not be able to go to school, etc. So I'm just wondering, for people listening, what isn't normal now?
So if people cannot manage period pain, or just before a period or around ovulation, or even post-period, without a simple heat pack, ibuprofen or Panadol, if people are requiring more than that, then that's not normal. So what I would encourage people to do is start to track what is going on for them. And we want to see over a 3-month period what is going on for you. So I often, and people can head to the QENDO website and download a tracking calendar, or our app is free as well. And we want to look at that 3-month calendar. And I say to people, okay, mark on the calendar the days of pain. Yeah. And what you'll often see is that the days of pain will start to increase. So your ability to do all the normal things that you'd like to do will start to decrease in the ability to do so over time. We want to start tracking, okay, is your bowel motion not great before or after a period? There's absolutely a thing called period poos, which is a different topic, but is there concerns with your bowel motions? Does it hurt? Or are you not able to open completely, or do you feel still really full? Do you have pain that wraps around your pelvis and shoots down your legs? All of these things aren't normal, and there are some really simple things that we can help you do to become, remove that symptom from you or manage that symptom. But at the baseline, anything that is requiring more than Panadol, ibuprofen, Nurofen, and a heat pack, then absolutely go and talk with someone.
And that, because that's the impact on your quality of life as well. And as soon as it starts to impact your quality of life, no matter whether it impacts your quality of life less or more than like your best friend or your mum who's had endometriosis or something like that, it's worth advocating for yourself and reaching out. So would you say the first point of call is a GP?
A GP, but go informed, go educated.
Yeah, the more information, the better.
That's right. And take those 3 months. And even if you put it down on paper and show, here's the dates that I have symptoms, and here's what I'm not able to do, and really qualify the impact on you, because taking that information into the GP will allow them to see that bigger picture of you, not just what's been going on today or the last week. And if you can go informed about your body, that will also help the GP to know, okay, they're really starting to track this, and we can start to look at, okay, where do we go from here? But also individuals might need to start advocating for themselves to see a gynecologist, or a pelvic floor physio or a psychologist. And I'm absolutely not saying any of this is in anyone's head. That is not the message. It's absolutely a real disease that is absolutely impactful. But we can start to use, with a psychologist, strategies around how to manage it. Yeah, the mental load that someone carries with endometriosis or any chronic condition is enormous. And if we can work with someone to get some strategies to better manage that or better understand it, then that can really help as well. So go in there with yourself being armed of information. And we have a GP resource guide that people print out and take to their GP.
That's really good to know.
They can tick off all their symptoms and say, I have 9 out of 10 of these symptoms. Can you please refer me for investigation for endometriosis?
Yeah, okay, that's really good advice. And we'll link the resource guide on your website as well, so people can just click straight on that. And, I just wanted to mention along that as well is speak to other people. And, whether, we're very lucky in the Women's College, we're surrounded by so many women. And, I have endometriosis. I've recently discovered that quite a few of my friends do, which makes sense because it's 1 in 6 women. And I just think validate yourself with other people, whether that's on Facebook. There's Endometriosis Queensland Facebook group, whether that's through the QENDO. Do you have it's like a peer group?
We have mentors, so we can connect you with a mentor who's of a similar age or similar interest, and you can then chat with them. They're like your dedicated person for 6 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
And then you can continue the relationship if you wish.
And that's free?
It's all free. Services are free. And we also have a helpline that's still in operation, and everyone on that helpline is someone living with endometriosis or adenomyosis or pelvic pain or infertility or all these concerns. So we are here, and you can just simply reach out or say, this is my issue, or can I talk with someone? And we can connect you. And it's all confidential, and it just gives you information and resources. So they're all free, and we're here at any time.
Yeah, I think that's really important because sometimes it's very overwhelming going to the GP or a gynecologist, if psychologist, because they're all medical professionals. So sometimes maybe start by just reaching out to other people with lived experience, etc., friends, family that can validate you, because I think that's probably one of the most important things with endometriosis, adenomyosis, other gynecological conditions, is the lack of validation it's really tricky. I know you'd be able to speak to it as well, that it's an invisible disease. So you haven't broken your arm, you haven't broken your leg. Yeah, it's inside, and that can sometimes be really taxing on an individual, whether that's endometriosis or another chronic condition. Having chronic pain but people not being able to see it is really, really tricky. So how would you advise people to go about that?
When you were just talking, I just thought, wow, we so acknowledge migraines, don't we, as a society?
And you can't see those.
So come on.
Yes.
We need, society, and I think we're getting there. I often think that endometriosis is really where diabetes and asthma, in terms of awareness and funding and services, was 30 years ago, right? So we're at the start of something, which is a good time. But absolutely, it's invisible. Although if you look at your day, and if someone who's impacted by endo, if you look at your day, is it really invisible, right? Because you're not showing up to things. So yes, the lesions, you can't see them, but you can physically see someone who has brain fog or who isn't well, or who's hunched over in pain, or I think we actually do a really good job of hiding our symptoms just to try and manage and get on with life. Anyone with a chronic condition tries to do that. I think, though, if you can start sharing and talking about it with your community, that, hey, I have endo, it's not a good day for me, can we pick this up next week? That will start to put the word or describe what's going on for you. And particularly when you go in to see a GP or any health professional, like we said, that tracking of what's going on for you to show this is really my life. This is not a 10-minute or half an hour snippet. This is what it's like for me all the time. And also, when you're talking with different health professionals about different treatment options, an acronym that a tool I really love to use is the term BRAINS. And so B stands for benefits, and again, on our website, people can download this. So you can ask the health professional, okay, I've been offered this particular treatment and you're not really sure to do it or not. So as a health professional, they can't tell you what to do. They can just recommend things, yeah? But as an individual, like, well, how do I know this is the right thing for me? So BRAINS, the tool BRAINS is a really great tool to help inform decision-making. So B stands for benefits. You can ask the health professional, what are the benefits to what you're offering me? R stands for risks. There are risks to everything. So what are the risks to this particular treatment option, or even a referral, or even, a new idea? A is alternative. What are the alternatives to what's being offered to me? Yeah. I is your instinct. I think when we go into those health professional settings, we kind of get a bit really overwhelmed, and we forget to come back into our bodies. And so our bodies tell us so much. And I is for instincts, to check in, how is my gut feeling, or how am I sitting with this information? N is for nothing. What if I do nothing? Then what are my risks and benefits then? And S is for a second opinion or support. So people use this BRAINS tool when they're going to see a GP and they're saying, oh, no, we'll put you on the pill, or we'll put you on this medication, or we'll hold off referring you to a gynecologist. And that's really tricky to come up against. So using the BRAINS tool, okay, what's the benefits to this? What's the alternatives? What's the risks? Give someone almost a checklist to go through to get better informed about whatever that health professional is suggesting. And it's one that people use in emergency or in any health professional office.
Yeah. And I guess also the other thing is, people who have endometriosis, you never know what the day's going to throw at you.
No.
It's, whether that's in regards to your mental health or your physical pain, things like that. Something I find really helpful, and listeners from our last podcast will have heard me say this in reference to mental health, that my psychologist recommended to me to have different lists for different days. So like whether that's an A day, a B day, or a C day. And I said this in regards to mental health. Like an A day is like, yes, I'm getting up and I have no pain and I feel amazing. Whereas a C day is like, I'm going to have to lie in bed today with my Thames machine on and in the dark because I'm really nauseous and I'm in a lot of pain. And I guess that, just lets you have some more agency over your days as well, because I would say endometriosis, adenomyosis, gynecological diseases like this, it does take away a lot of your autonomy and your agency. So whatever you can do to give that agency back to yourself, such as using these tools, the BRAINS acronym, I think that's so helpful.
Yeah, completely. I love that idea. I love the list idea. And that will change. And if people aren't tracking their cycle, do it, because this gives us so much information. I personally have never tracked my cycle up until recently and realised that, the week leading up to my period, I am so exhausted. I am just absolutely exhausted. But then a couple of days after I start to have my period, I'm really energized, and you give me any to-do list and I will action it. And that'll be different for everyone. But start to plan out, if you can. If you're in uni, it's a bit tricky around exams and everything, but where possible, start to plan out your capacity around your cycle or around your symptoms. And if you do start to track it, you'll start to see a trend, or you'll be able to see, I did this and then I wasn't okay, or I ate this and I had a flare. That type of assessment on yourself can be super helpful. And I often say to people, if you have symptoms of endometriosis, or if you have any symptoms that you're looking at your friends and they don't have it, start to write out that list and go in with, I have this symptom and this symptom and this symptom. And on our helpline in our debrief sessions, we often say to people, what are your symptoms? And then we try and work out who could you go and see to help with that. So if it's, this really intense cramping, okay, let's see a pelvic floor physio. If you've got endo belly, that big bloat that feels and looks like you're 9 months pregnant, but it's just so uncomfortable. Okay, who can we talk about to go and help with that as well? What type of foods are you eating? We don't promote an endo diet because I think that's super dangerous because we're all different individuals, but there are really key principles that people can follow and start to implement at no cost and totally for free, and just some simple swaps. So there are the kind of things that people can start to do, and then they go into, again, they're health professional, they're advocating for themselves to go, okay, here's some things that are going on for me. These aren't normal. Who do I need to talk to get some help?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And again, comes back to the individuality of this disease. And yes, it gives us hope that there's all this individualized treatment out there coming in the future. But I guess, for now, what are things that you can do, such as going and seeing health professionals, talking to other people, validating yourself, that you can currently do? So, that's really helpful. I hope that, listeners kind of have some steps, whether they have already been diagnosed or they want to be diagnosed. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you, Jess.
I think as well that you don't need to go and see someone to get this help. So you could start to keep a diary of what you're eating. I know it's super basic, but we're so busy these days, and often I don't remember what I did yesterday. So start writing down, did this make my symptoms worse, or did they improve? Going for a walk. I hate walking. I really hate walking, but it's the best thing for me when I'm in a flare. And my partner, he tries to make me go for a walk, and I'm going for a stupid walk for my stupid mental health.
Yes, I've seen those memes on Instagram.
I really dislike it, but honestly, it's the best thing to get my pelvis moving, and it feels so counterproductive when you're in that fetal position. But that's free, and you don't need to talk to anyone or get any support or advice from a health professional to do these little things. And yes, they're tiny and they're small, and when you're in a place of, real overwhelm or in a lot of pain, it doesn't feel significant, but it really truly is the small things that add up to the big things with this condition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going back to it, a lot of the time women are told that their pain is normal. We talk about the man flu and things like that. And even I think Nurofen currently have an ad out there about the gender pain gap. Mm-hmm. And in our panel with Ash and Sally, we touched on the gender pain gap. Do you have anything to say about that?
Oh, that it's so great it's being spoken about. And I think we have done such a good job to hide that pain, and we're now needing to be a little bit vulnerable as women or people assigned female at birth to share and talk about what's going on, because for decades we've been silenced. So we've seen with endometriosis, if you share your story, that's how we create awareness and movement. So that's what people need to do with their pain as well. And it's absolutely wonderful to see really big brands like Nurofen put these messaging out, because that will start to shift this stigmatized area. Pain. I was speaking with someone just a couple of weeks ago who had an ovarian torsion. So her ovary had totally flipped around. Wow. And if a male presented to an emergency department with a testicular torsion, I'm pretty sure they have about 4 hours to rectify it. Otherwise, they'll lose that testy. This individual, over a 3-day period with an ovarian torsion, presented to the hospital a number of times, and they didn't even offer her an ultrasound. What the?
Yeah, I know.
So talk about it. Really elevate the fact that women are in pain, and we are amazing at just dealing, aren't we? So it's a big topic. It needs to come. We need to keep talking about it and just really normalize it. But it starts with little conversations in groups of friends, and that's how we kicked off endometriosis awareness, and that's what we can do as well for pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess on that, why is it so important for us to continue these conversations and have podcasts like these and have people like yourself advocating out there, even for people to advocate who might not necessarily have endometriosis? What is the importance of that?
We need our allies, don't we? Because we manage this condition and the pain and everything, as well as trying to talk about it. We need our allies to talk when we cannot. Yeah. And the reason I can do the work that I can do is because I've learned to manage the condition, and I know that so many people cannot and are in a lot of trouble and cannot even get out of bed. So you do it for them. Yeah, you do it for the people that cannot. We need to keep having these conversations because it's working. It's working because women and people who are impacted are talking, And politically, at the end of the day, we're all voters, yeah? And we decide as a collective what is funded and what isn't funded and what is the most spoken about. The reason we've been so successful with endometriosis is because of how many people shared their story.
Yeah.
And we need to keep doing that, whether it be in a small friend circle, sharing about your experiences. I guarantee you there'll be someone else in that circle who's either living with the condition or the symptoms and not sharing about it, or they'll have a sister or a mum.
Yeah, 1 in 6.
1 in 6. And it's not until you start to talk about it more openly. And when we go into our workplaces and we do a workplace education and training for leaders and managers and people in the workforce, and what we often hear are people suffering silently, which is a big part of the issue, but they haven't felt empowered to start talking about it. So we need to do that so that we can get women back to work, that they can finish their university degrees, so that people can go on to have families if they wish to, and that the next generation of women and girls and people don't go through what we all went through. And we're starting to see that. If I think about my mum, who's almost 60, who only was diagnosed 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow.
And had a lifetime of these symptoms, to me, who it didn't take 30 years, but it took 10 years, well, almost 7 to 10 years for me. And I think more recently I've heard that diagnosis delay is dropping. Yeah, so people are getting answers sooner.
How good is that? Yeah, that comes back to being it's a great current climate to be in almost. You have just raised is $18.2 million. You've lobbied for that from the government.
For the Women's Health Strategy in Queensland, yeah. That's right. So QENDO's been around since 1988. So that's before my time, and I'm pretty sure before any of people's time listening. And QENDO were one of the first groups to talk about this in Parliament. And then we started talking to politicians, and we have so many more female politicians in chambers talking about these issues and are talking about issues that impact women. So we were able to really have endometriosis as an issue on the agenda. And, around $18.2 million for endometriosis and services. And that's to go to frontline services, so people to develop services for physio and nursing and all of that, but also guidelines. So when you present to an emergency department, some type of understanding of what you actually do with someone with these symptoms. And there's a whole heap of different training for physios and nurses, again, as well as our gynecologists. So more time to have the surgery and more operating time and more holistic care with a colorectal surgeon or a urologist. So, yes, I think that we are in a significant deficit. So we always are pushing for more funding, and I think that's going to be forthcoming, both at a state level and a federal level. If I can ask everyone to keep talking, then we can really get it across the line. Yeah.
And going back to, Nurofen doing an ad, like big companies like that, I think the talking is working, and you should be so proud that you are part of this. And I feel proud that I'm about to put out a podcast that people will listen to and be kind of like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about that, or wow, this has really helped me with my diagnosis journey. And I guess what you said before on our walkover was just knowing that your job even impacts one person and changes the trajectory of their life is worth working towards. And I think that that's something that, back to the advocacy for everyone question, is just because it doesn't impact you, it's impacting your sisters, it's impacting your friends, your aunties, etc. And I think that advocacy is the most important tool. People should aim to speak where their friends and families who are suffering can't.
That's right. And if you think about the trajectory of someone's life, if they live with endometriosis and they don't know what it is and they live with these symptoms for 10 years, the likelihood of them being able to go and do the career that they want to do or live a really well life is really impacted. And so people around them, if you're not questioning and not talking about it, then the difference is them continuing along that trajectory or completely changing it and go and get answers and being able to do sport, do their career that they want to do, have a family if they want to. So this very, very small things that individuals can do make the biggest outcome. And I think endometriosis is, the worst community but the best people. There's a lot of those terms thrown around. It's the worst disease, but you can make very small impacts in someone's life. Just when I arrived at the college, this beautiful person came up to me and she shared, we were in tears because from a conversation her and I had a year or two ago, she's now actually got answers and a diagnosis, and she knows what she's dealing with, and she can go down that path and continue to seeking help. But if we didn't have that conversation, she could have potentially been stuck in those symptoms and possibly, I don't know, fallen out of uni. That's what happened to me. I couldn't continue uni because I was so unwell. If someone had plucked me out and said, hey, this is what it is, this is what's going on for you, it would have changed my trajectory, and that's what we can do with all of those individuals.
Yeah, wow. And I guess that comes back to support networks as well. So, yes, we say this is an invisible disease, but and that we need a holistic view on everything, and we need holistic support, and part of that is your support networks. And for this beautiful girl, you were part of her support network without probably even realizing it. So what would you say is, like, how can someone create this network for themselves of support?
So QENDO's entire existence is based around support services. And if someone is feeling like they are feeling really vulnerable and not confident enough to create their own, you can connect them with ours, and then we can connect you back in your local area. So we have 26 communities across Australia that it can be local. And what we often find is people then start to feel some confidence about talking about it, and they've almost tested the waters out with some of their peers. And we have trained facilitators, and then they go back into their communities and start talking about it and growing it from there. People can hold locally, meets, endometriosis meets. We call them QENDO meets, and we work with people one-on-one to do that. Put it out in even just an awareness piece around March, which is our endometriosis awareness month. Do you know what endometriosis is? If you need support and help, this is the person. So if you don't feel comfortable seeking it out yourself, we are here to help you connect and build those connections.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But if you are, then just simply sharing your story with someone and being vulnerable and open about, oh gosh, I'm in a bit of pain today, I have endo. Then yes, some people might go, oh gosh, what's that? But a lot of people will go, oh wow, I've heard about that. What could I do for you? How can I support? Yeah.
And as a support person, maybe listening to this, what would you say are some helpful strategies they can utilise when they just don't know what to say?
For sure. It's tricky because we cannot cure this. Yeah. We're living with this all the time. One thing that I always say to carers or support people is asking the person with endo, do you want support right now, or do you want a suggestion? Yeah. So can I support you, or can I suggest something for you to do? And what the suggestion looks like, it could be, okay, let's get up and go for a walk to the letterbox, which is the worst thing for me, but other people would really enjoy that. Or support can also look like, okay, I can see you've got a lot on, or I can see you're in pain. It's really labeling what they're seeing. Yeah, and that's validation.
Again, it comes back to the validation, the invisibility. Yeah, any chronic pain, disease, anything like that. Yeah, validation is the number one thing.
When we hold a carers and support person training, and we give them really specific sentences. Yeah, so it could be, I can see you're in pain right now. Would a heat pack help?
Yeah.
Yeah, or I noticed you're in the bathroom for a bit longer. Do you need to lie down? Can I help you lie down? It could be, I'm a mum, I've got 2 kids, so my partner will say to me, I can see that you're about to, go into having a cycle or a period. I'm going to help you meal plan right now. I'm going to get prepared for the next week. Really practical things. If it's a parent or a mum, getting across what's going on at school. When are your exams? Whether it be in high school or primary school these days, or even university, can I come and be your study buddy? Yeah, we've had lots of mums who get out the flashcards and help their daughters do that, as well as going in and talking and advocating for their daughter or person in the schools to say, my daughter has a condition, we're working on it, here's what we're doing to manage it, but we have exams coming up and these are the concerns that we have. Can we defer them or delay them, or can they actually get some additional support in the school? Is there a chance that we could pause and have a lie down, or do pelvic floor stretches, in between a 2-hour exam? But also helping that support person be educated. If you know and you build up your toolbox of things that work for you, share that toolbox of ideas with your support person so that when they say to you, you're not okay, do you want support or suggestions? You've already got your suggestions toolbox built. Yeah. And they already know what they can rely on, whether it be a heat pack, going for a walk. I don't know, people love all different types of things. But that will help to bring people along the way as well.
Yeah, that's really actionable advice, really. Yeah, because as a support person, sometimes it's really hard because you don't know what it's like, and that's okay. I don't think that you need to be going through it and need to have felt the pelvic pain or anything along those symptom lines to support someone. I think that's the most important thing, is that you can help someone without having gone through it.
Yeah. And as a support person, I know as a friend as well, just you don't need to take it on yourself, but you can recognize and say, if you need to cancel today, it's okay. You know, if you can't come to the party, it's okay. Don't stress.
Having flexibility, I think, and we spoke about this on our panel as well, is understanding that whole every day is different. For chronic pain, people who live with chronic pain and conditions such as endometriosis, is you don't know what each day is going to throw at you. So having people around you that understand that you may need to cancel 5 minutes before you're supposed to meet up for coffee, or you may need to sit and watch a movie instead of going for a walk or a run together, I think is, just acknowledge that they don't know what each day is going to bring at them. So it's not their fault.
And I also think that you need friends around you that will kind of boss you around a bit, if I can say that, because, again, we try and hide these issues.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of years ago, I was so sick. I was really, really unwell, and I would not go to hospital, which is terrible. Don't listen to me. That's a terrible advice. I remember a friend who I didn't reply to, and she kept calling me, and it was at one of those times where I was so unwell and I just couldn't deal with anyone or anything. And she actually rocked up on my door and said, I'm taking you to the hospital right now. Because I even hid it from my partner, and but she knew me and she knew that I wasn't okay. So you do need those bossy friends to kind of step in when we potentially don't want to. They're really important people as well.
Yeah, it's the doing where you can't. Yeah, really important having the support network around you. And I guess, we've talked a little bit about advocacy and things like that, but specifically for QENDO, this amazing business that you're a part of, what current advocacy efforts are you involved with that improve this access, support, things like that?
So we're really focusing on trying to drive more free services that where people don't need to go to hospital. So we're currently advocating for expansion of our helpline to bring on a nurse to help case manage or help even discuss options, a pelvic floor physio and a psychologist to be on the phone where anyone can pick up and access in real time. So they don't need to go to emergency unless they really need to. But a lot of the time, if you've got a pain flare at home, talking to a pelvic floor physio can just totally shift everything. They're not just going to teach you how to exercise. They're going to map the pelvis. They're going to talk to you about what's painful, where does it hurt, what can't you do, and really almost demystify everything going on for you. So we're lobbying for that at the moment. We're also lobbying for more public hospital services. So we really need this multidisciplinary team. So your pelvic floor physios, nurse, psychology, social worker, gynecologist, occupational therapist, psychiatrist, pain specialist, all working together, because often people with endo will repeat their story again and again, and that's just exhausting. But it's also then reliant on the individual to have to, again, advocate for themselves. But if we can get them into a multidisciplinary team where everyone is across that individual, we're not needing to repeat stories and repeat examples, and we have the team review a plan for that individual, that's what we need to move towards. We've just launched one on the Gold Coast. We're looking to launch some in Far North Queensland and then also in Brisbane. So stay tuned for that. That'll be massive.
Watch this space.
Trying to build a service and a new model of care in the public system is so difficult.
Yes, I can imagine.
But the fact that we have one in Queensland means that we can learn, and it's not perfect. None of these are any perfect at the first go, but we can start to learn and create more of them, particularly in our rural areas, in our far north Queensland areas, where it's tricky to manage these issues. And it means that those people in far north Queensland don't need to travel to Brisbane to get help. They can get it locally.
Yeah, access barriers.
Access barriers. So we're also lobbying for that. We're lobbying so in Queensland, we have the best researchers to actually know what this disease is. We don't know what endometriosis is. We don't know how it works in the body. But our researchers in Brisbane are actually doing that work to find it out. And when I met with them this morning, it's not very far away to actually figure that out.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing.
It's very exciting.
It's so exciting. And so we're like endo nerds.
I know. I'm like, yes, yes.
But this is a key thing. We can't find a cure for this until we actually know what it is. Like I said, we're going to have spaghetti that continues to get stuck at the wall and we don't know what goes on. So the fact that they are doing that, and they're also looking at, okay, well, what treatments can we work on now as well as working out what the disease is to find a cure. So they're really approaching at it from different angles. So we're lobbying for like a 15-year pipeline in Queensland of what can we do to find a cure here.
Wow.
That's so exciting. The other thing we're lobbying for, and something I'm really passionate about, is creating a fund for people to apply to get help. So pay their rent, or help pay for a physio appointment, or help pay for their catheter if they need to self-catheterize every week. We're trying to build a fund where people donate to, and then we can help people with endometriosis live.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited for that because we hear all the time on the helpline, I'd love to go see a pelvic floor physio, but I can't afford it. And so
it's an expensive disease.
It's really expensive. Or, do I choose between going to see a pelvic floor physio and paying my rent, or, real life financial issues? So if we can help to fund that a little bit, then that'll just make at least a small difference to people.
Yeah, well, any alleviation is an alleviation after all.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I really feel like we've gone from A to Z. Thank you so much. Is there anything else I've potentially missed out I'd like to mention?
I think we just need to reiterate that this is a condition that's really complex and it's real and it's not in your head, and that surgery is one component, and absolutely we can go down that path. We can also go down a whole heap of other paths. And I'd like to really get the message out there that we need to look at this like a toolbox, and there's many things you can add to your toolbox. Your toolbox test will look different to mine, and that's where we need to keep talking, keep educating ourselves. And please download the free QENDO app. It's free and you can track everything on there. People use that to be diagnosed themselves. People take it to their doctors. There's resources. There's other connection pathways. You can connect with peers on there as well. You don't need to do this alone, and people around you also don't need to do it alone. If you live with endometriosis, we're here for you. But if you don't live with endometriosis, please, if you know 6 people, then you should know someone with endo and be an ally for them.
Allies are our best friends. And are you feeling positive about the trajectory for women's health in the future?
The fact that we have a government that's listening for the first time ever, that we have incredible allies out there who are talking and lobbying on behalf of us with endo. We're not doing this alone anymore. And then that we have really promising research to actually find out what this disease is, which gets us closer to the cure. All of that, I'm feeling really optimistic.
Me too. Yes, it's very exciting. It's an exciting future for all of us, and there's hope. I think that's the most important thing. There is hope that this is going to get better, and it's not all-encompassing. And then my last final question is a bit different, but who is the most influential woman in your life and why?
The most influential female in my life is my daughter. Can I say that?
Yes, that's beautiful.
She's 7. No, almost 7. And do you know what? She is like a mirror, and she just really gets me going. And so I know that's not really looking, to leadership or external, but just coming back inwards and looking at how she approaches the world and how she keeps continuously being curious, and she questions everything, and she always wants to think differently about something. I love that. And she keeps me on point, but also it continues to remind me that if I'm stuck in a way, she will remind me, no, Mum, be curious. Mummy, let's think about this. And I really love that about her. I think the next generation coming through, we're in really good hands because they think differently. And she's so sassy. She's the biggest sassy little thing. But she's totally herself as well. And she's not apologetic. So I learn a lot from her.
I think we can learn a lot from people who are confident in themselves.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, I'd like to say a massive thank you for joining me on this podcast. And again, even if we helped one person today, that's all we can ask for. And keep doing the amazing advocacy work you're doing, because you are changing hundreds of thousands of lives. So thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Tess. And if anyone wants to join me, always welcome. The more the merrier.